At this point, call me a reaction content creator. I don't care. I'm snagging this shit like a... Take two. Call me a Take three. Call me a reaction content creator. I don't care. I'm snagging this shit like candy from a baby. Takis from a Latina. And sleeping medicines from an old lady. But nah. I don't know what we're reacting to. I saw the title. I had to click it. I want to watch it. And maybe we up about it. Just maybe.
Imagine a cute and cuddly storybook town where everyone's friendly, the clouds are shining, and the trees are green. There's not a care in the world. Now imagine one of these storybook characters is a psychopathic bear who kidnaps, kills, and dissects people before burying them in the woods. This is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
What?
Hello friends, this is Grief speaking. I wanted to do something a little different this week.
So
I've spent a lot of
Jeffrey
time
Dahmer
lately
as a bear,
covering
bro.
horror manga, but I've never really dived into disturbing American comics. Recently I was looking at comic books on Amazon and happened upon a comic called Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. It immediately caught my eye. A cartoon-looking bear dragging a bloody bag into the woods. I mean, what the hell? So on a whim, I decided to read it, and holy crap.
I'm not even gonna hold you up, bro. Blood low-key looks like a Fortnite character. I fought with it though. I
This thing is fantastic, disturbing, and grotesque. So let's dive into the mind of a...
Okay, I know I just paused 2 seconds ago and now I gotta pause again, but I have a real question. Hear me out. Does he have a mic underneath the mask, or does he just... And then he does voice lines over the video? Like he just moves around, you know? Like he's like... No, is it like that? I don't know.
serial killer bear. This is Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees explained. So let's get into issue number 1. Welcome to Woodbrook. A bear named Samantha Strong tells us about this quaint little town she lives in. A special place where everyone knows each other's names, where the residents enjoy lemonade in the summer and spiced cider in the fall.
Zootopia,
As she
but
walks
country?
through town, she's greeted fondly by the colorful townspeople, including the town sheriff, Patterson the dog. She passes by a newspaper stand and we see a sad interaction with an old goat named Martin who clearly has memory issues. He tries to buy the morning paper even though he just did 5 minutes ago. Sam says that some may think Woodbrook is a boring place, but it suits her just fine. Inside her hardware store, Sam helps Birdie the turtle fill a hole in a piece of wood he plans on using for his float in the upcoming parade. It's clear that Sam likes things neat and tidy, something of a motto she tells her employee Charlie. Martin the goat from the newsstand comes in and keeps asking everyone if they've seen his glasses, which he happens to be wearing. Charlie's family drops by. They're a cute bunch of moles all with thick glasses. Sam leaves her shop to Charlie while she heads to the city for some kind of appointment. It's really a picturesque little town with its cute and quirky residents. But as Sam drives towards the city, this storybook takes a dark turn. She tells us she only has 2 rules. 1. No playing in Woodbrook, only cities. If a person went missing in Woodbrook, it would be the talk of the town. But in the city, people go missing all the time. Her second rule: always keep it random. We see a duck walking down an empty side street when he stumbles upon Sam looking at her engine. The duck asks if she needs a hand and she graciously accepts the help. He takes a peek and decides it's a pretty easy fix if she has some tools. Sam takes him around to the trunk to grab a socket wrench. He climbs in and looks at her tool bag when she suddenly wraps a chloroform rag around his beak until he blacks out. Next thing you know, she drives a nail into the back of the duck's head. Apparently she's driven it through his foramen magnum, destroying the medulla and shutting his body down. She describes this as a dream that he'll never wake up from. She uses ropes and a crank to pull the body upside down, saying she doesn't want to mess, only to be in control. Just a small release and reset. Then she slits the duck's throat. The next page is gruesome. She cuts the duck's body up in perfect symmetrical chunks, including his head, which is now in half, exposing his brains. This is no fairy tale, folks. She does this in a clean and precise way. Even though she's in the woods, she's even laid down a tarp. She says that this centers her in a way that she can't explain, and it muffles the voice in her.
I thought it would at least be a dude bear. I thought it was a dude bear. Not saying women can't be murderers. I just assumed it would be a dude, you know? Who makes a female a killer? Except if you watch a You. Fuck you, Joe Gerberg.
Her head. She then puts the severed body parts into paint buckets and buries them in separate little holes. Like I said, the order and efficiency of all of this is spooky. As she picks up her gear, she hears someone come around the corner. It's a wild bear. Yeah, I guess this is like Disney rules where the humanoids are animals, but there's also real animals around as well. Anyway, the bear wanders away, and as she packs up her car, she notes that she's buried 43 people out here over the past 20 years. Back at home, Sam seems completely relaxed, sitting in the tub with some cookies and a book, as if she didn't just cut a stranger up into pieces. That night, she has dinner with Lola the mouse, her only friend, and her son Nigel. We learn that Lola has some kind of disease that is slowly destroying her body, and that Nigel has taken time off college to take care of her. Apparently, Sam only reluctantly took over the hardware store for her parents, but says that Woodbrook's not so bad when you find your place in it. The next day is the big parade celebrating the 200th birthday of Woodbrook. Sam closes her shop down for the day to celebrate, and everyone is abuzz. Finally, the parade begins, and the floats come rolling by, including Birdie the turtle, whose float is a magnificent looking ship with a large sail. However, as the turtle waves to the crowd, the sail comes loose and falls into him. But that's not the real tragedy, it's what's hidden under the sail. We see Sam, Charlie, and his kids watching in the crowd. Suddenly, they erupt in tears and panic. Sam mentions there was a moment before anyone noticed, and then we all crossed into a dark and strange land. On the ship's mast hangs the body of Martin the goat, his chest pulled open, his arms split in half, and his feet nailed into the wood like a crucifix. It's a disturbing sight, especially in this art style. Sam's inner monologue starts up saying, let's say you did have someone who didn't play by the rules, who just started murdering folks right here in Woodbrook. Wouldn't take long for an investigation to stumble upon the wrong killer. For instance, the town's favorite brown bear and what she's been up to all these years. Then we'd have a problem. A major fucking problem. And that's the end of issue 1, and what a hell of a way to start this comic off. So let's move into issue 2. One of the cool things between the issues is the local newspaper, the Woodbrook Wanderer, where we get to see the articles covering the atrocities. It's a cool detail. This issue begins with the town meeting at the church to discuss the incident. Sheriff Patterson states the obvious. Martin was murdered, and it's the first murder in Woodbrook in 40 years. With a killer on the loose, the police have decided to start a curfew at 9 p.m. A pig woman from the crowd stands up and accuses Birdie of being the killer, saying obviously it was him since the dead goat was tied to his float. Patterson tries to calm her down, but she just gets more belligerent and storms out of the meeting. The mayor lets out a heavy sigh and under her breath just says, cherry fucking gherkins. Sam decides that this town isn't big enough for 2 psychopaths, especially a reckless one, so she's gonna have to solve this before they catch the wrong one.
Oh my
the
God,
next day,
so
Birdie the
like
turtle is giving
Dexter.
himself a pep talk to go outside.
This is literally like Dexter, bro. This is all it is. This is Dexter season 1.
I didn't throw out the
This is
trash.
Dexter
He says
season
nobody's
1
waiting
right
to clobber
here,
me,
bro.
right? And it's clear this must have happened once as he has a black eye. He gets to the garbage can and Sam pops up, scaring the shit out of him. He sinks into his shell, saying he swears he had nothing to do with the murder, but Sam assures him that she's not here to hurt him. She gives him a lollipop to calm him down and asks him about the night before the parade. Even though he already told the police everything, there was one small detail he forgot to mention. The night before the parade, he was rushing to finish up the decorations, and all that was left was the lavender. A cat, Melody Davis, had been helping him out, but she seemed to be allergic to lavender, sneezing up a storm. Feeling bad, Birdie sent Melody home. However, shortly after she left, Birdie heard someone sneeze, although no one responded when he called out, meaning either someone else was there who's allergic to lavender or Melody hung around waiting for Birdie to leave. Either way, we've got a new suspect. Birdie wonders if Melody could really do something like that, and Sam replies that you never know what people are capable of. On the other hand, it doesn't take a brainiac to know that Cherry Gherkins was the one who gave him the black eye. On her way into town, Sheriff Patterson asks Sam what she was up to the day before the parade. She tells him she left for an appointment in the city, something she does every couple months to do business with some of the shops up there. The sheriff doesn't think much of it and moves on. Inside the shop, Charlie informs her that it's been quite busy with everyone buying up all kinds of locks and security equipment. In the middle of the conversation, they hear a loud honk outside. Cherry Gherkins just leaves her car in the road to get her morning latte in the coffee shop since there was no spots left to park, and the car behind her is pissed. This entitled pig just calls the guy an idiot and leaves her car anyway. Cherry fucking Gherkins. Sam decides to go across the street under the guise of getting Charlie a hot chocolate. Inside the coffee joint, Cherry is being a quintessential Karen, cutting the line and demanding she get her latte immediately. The buddy behind the counter just has that I don't get paid enough for this shit kind of attitude, and Cherry's getting more irritated by the moment. Sam suddenly pipes up saying, boy, I just saw Birdie and he had a shiner of a black eye. Someone must have popped him pretty hard. Poor little guy, must have been some hothead who jumped to conclusions even though it's pretty obvious obvious he didn't have anything to do with it. Cherry's fuming and finally blows up, saying whatever Birdie said was a lie. Sam just says, that's a short temper, Cherry. Where were you the night of the murder? Cherry snaps, calling her a furry bitch and saying she'll sue her for harassment and defamation. One of the classic go-to moves for Karens. She tells Sam to fuck off and pushes her to the ground, then grabs her latte and leaves without paying, saying she doesn't have time for this bullshit. That night, Cherry's husband Howard watches the news report about Martin's murder, and Cherry says she's going for a jog even though it's past the town's 9 p.m. curfew. Her husband warns her and she says, oh Howard, you're such a pushover. They'll walk all over you if you let them. That's why I married you. And she kisses him on the forehead. I mean, that's just funny. She goes out jogging, saying if anyone messes with Cherry Gherkins, it'll be the last mistake they make. As she passes the elementary school, she hears a noise nearby. Now she's getting a little creeped out. Finally, someone approaches her. She tries to act casual until she sees the person pull out a knife. She decides to berate them, saying, listen here, pal, I don't scare easy, so you can fuck off. The killer then slices off all of her fingers, which fall to the ground in a puddle of blood. She runs in terror, holding her bloody hand, climbing the school's fire escape and breaking through the window to get inside. She runs through the school, now a complete mess, but when she makes her way down the stairs, an axe flies into the railing and trips her. She falls face first into the ground. Now standing in front of her is the killer holding an axe. She tries to plead for her life when we hear the sickening sound of an axe striking her body, and we see the life drain from her face. The next day, the principal opens up the school to find a horrific sight. Cherry fucking Gherkins head on a stick, her entrails in a bucket, and her blood on the wall, spelling out the phrase, head of the class. Soon after, the news shows up to cover the gruesome incident, and the townspeople are even more frightened.
This is dead ass like Dexter. I'm not even gonna hold you, bro. This is dead ass like Dexter, bro. Like, this is dead ass like Dexter. Didn't the ice truck killer leave a head? Didn't he just leave a head as his second kill, or am I tweaking? No. That was his. He took the head of his second kill and he threw it at Dexter.
In the crowd, we see Cherry's husband Howard in tears, saying maybe they'd be better off without a sheriff at this rate. And that moves us into issue number 3 with its eerie cover of Melody the cat standing there all creepy. The town is on high alert, everyone's staying indoors and locking up. Sam says that the thing about a monster is that they can hide in plain sight. You've known them your whole life. They're your friend, your neighbor. They'll make you feel comfortable, but really they're just biding their time, like a coiled snake squirming behind 2 placid eyes. We see several residents purchasing meat from the local butcher, Melody. She seems to be doing quite well with a long line of customers. Sam and Charlie are having a conversation about Martin's upcoming funeral when Melody walks by. Sam notices Melody sneezes as she passes some nearby lavender. Later, Melody makes dinner and eats alone despite a plate being set out for someone else. Sam approaches from outside and peeks in through the window. After brushing her teeth, Melody steps into her room telling her husband about her miserable day, and we briefly see the arm of her husband laying in bed. The next morning, a reporter is continuing coverage on the tragedy of the town. Melody starts her day again, serving up hungry customers, and Sam's monologue continues, saying, "Can you spot the monster? Could be your friend, could be your neighbor. Could be the butcher whose dead husband may or may not actually be buried in the ground." After locking up, Charlie and his family all walk home together for safety. They offer to walk with Sam, but she says she'll be fine, plus she has other plans. Once everyone's gone, she picks up a brick and chucks it through Melody's shop. Melody wakes up to a call about a break-in and sleepily heads out to see what happened. Using a very specific tool, Sam unlocks Melody's window and climbs into her house. She makes her way down the hall, which is covered in pictures of Melody and her husband, who supposedly died. She opens a closet to a site only familiar to furries. Several fake cat heads made of felt, made to look just like Melody's husband. She reluctantly enters the bedroom to learn it's not quite what it looked like. Melody isn't sleeping in bed with her husband's corpse, but rather a lifelike mock-up. Still really creepy though. Just then, Melody comes back a little sooner than Sam expected. She hides in the closet and Melody tells her fake husband what happened before going to take a shower. Sam makes her way out of the house, but she doesn't get too far before she runs into Melody pointing a revolver at her. Sam tries to explain that she thought Melody was the murderer and that maybe she had a dead body in her bed. Melody sits down, realizing that Sam has seen her little secret. She laments on the loss of her husband Frank. After he died, she simply wore a cheerful mask so people would think she was okay, but in reality, she's dead inside and feels completely alone. Having the fake body in her bed helps her a little. Sometimes she wakes up in the night and forgets he's not real. God damn, I knew this was going to be dark, but this is just sad. She asks Sam not to tell anyone about what she saw and then tells her sternly to get out of her house. It's now the day of Martin's funeral. Damn. Sam's inner monologue begins again. She says she can't.
I'm not even fuck with y'all, bro. This shit low-key banging, bro. I'm not even gonna cap. I thought I was coming in here to just watch a goofy video, But no, I'm actually intrigued. You know I'm intrigued when I'm like just watching the video. Mouth wide open, eyes glued to the screen, like, giving it all over me, like, you know.
Can't pretend to know what it means to them. While everyone cries, she's emotionless. She finds it interesting that she's caused this exact same thing to happen when she's made people disappear. To be honest, she finds it fascinating to watch. A true psychopath. She knows that whoever did this must be in attendance today. They wouldn't miss it for the world. One of the women at the funeral says she's wearing a perfume she made with lavender, and as the priest begins with a prayer, someone in the crowd sneezes. As everyone bows their heads in prayer, Sam spots Nigel, her friend's son, wiping his runny nose and looking back at her. That moves us into issue number 4.
No
Sam rides her bike
way,
through
bro.
Woodbrook, which looks like a ghost town on account of everyone locking themselves in their houses. She drops in at Lola and Nigel's house with some cake, and they sit down to have some tea. Lola seems to be having an episode, and Nigel helps her upstairs to lie down for a moment. When he gets back downstairs, Sam confronts him, saying, "This is getting way out of hand." She tells him he needs to stop stirring up the town. Nigel says he just needed to get her attention was all. He explains how he always liked Sam, since she seemed different than everyone else in Woodbrook. Shortly after coming back from school, Nigel began to follow her. Everything seemed innocent enough until one day he followed her into the city and watched as she kidnapped a person, then into the woods where she slit the person's throat. He couldn't believe that he found someone like him. He says he just needed to prove himself, and so he took his first big step by killing Martin to show her what he could do, hoping that maybe they could work together. Sam tells him to shut up and that they'll never be partners. She says he can do whatever he needs, but not in Woodbrook. This is a delicate little town and he's fucking it up. Nigel calls her a phony like all the rest and storms out. At home, Sam is pissed off that Nigel was spying on her this whole time. The next day at the shop, a customer almost walks out with a peculiar looking paint can. There's red smudged on the side and it looks old and muddy. So Sam gets him a new one. Charlie blames himself for giving the wrong can, and Sam tells him don't worry about it and to take the rest of the day off. In the back, Sam investigates the paint can and finds it to be exactly what she feared. There's a severed hand in the paint. This is one of the cans she had buried in the forest. She leaves the shop and begins to lose it a little, imagining the parade going on again. She sees herself cutting the duck's throat in front of a crowd of people who all smile and laugh. Amongst the crowd are 2 wild bears that come up and begin to feast on her, ripping out her neck. She wakes up screaming, and it appears it was a nightmare, or at least some of it was. Outside her window, she sees the silhouette of a mouse. She rushes to the window, opening it up and yelling, "Come get me, you chicken shit coward," but no one's out there other than her neighbor Chip, who runs the newspaper stand. It's a little awkward. She apologizes for yelling, and he says he understands since everyone's a little on edge with the murders going around. The next morning, Sam drives into town when she notices a commotion at her shop. Nigel pops up and takes a few pictures with his camera of her, saying he wanted a couple more photos of her before she leaves. Charlie got a call from someone who sounded a lot like Sam, saying she needed help at the store, and the poor guy never made it back home. In front of the store, we see Charlie's wife and children in tears. Nigel says he made a hell of a mess in there. How could Sam do that to poor Charlie? Even the police officers look horrified, one of them puking. Inside, Charlie's head is sat on a table with a saw blade stuck halfway through it. Nigel says he knows that Sam found the paint can he dug up and that there's a whole lot more in the store. Inside, the police begin opening the cans to find various body parts, and Nigel says, "You should have been nice to me, Sam." Sheriff Patterson alerts all the police to be on the lookout for Samantha Strong, the prime suspect for all the murders. Now she has no choice but to drive out of town. Issue number 5. This one has a gnarly cover. The duck that Sam cut up is just walking down the street like he isn't missing half of his brain. It's a cool and disturbing image. Anyway, Sam makes her way to the big city to try.
Oh my god, this shit is so tough. I'm actually glued to this shit. Oh my god, this shit is so tough. Oh my god.
And blend in with the crowds and hide out. As she sits at a diner, she sees something really bizarre. One of her victims is sitting at the counter, brains and guts exposed, just sitting there. Since no one else takes notice of this, it seems clear that Sam is starting to go mad. It's really disturbing seeing the body walking around like that. Reminds me of The Sixth Sense. Sam walks outside and sees some police asking around with a picture of her. She hides in an alley only to find the duck she chopped up standing there staring at her. She tries to leave the city but notices a traffic stop up ahead. In her rear view, she sees the duck staring at her. With no other choice, she drives her car off-road and into the deep woods until she runs into a fallen tree. She makes her way on foot now, falling to the ground. Covered in mud, she enters a nearby cave, saying she must have a conversation with herself that's long overdue. Inside, she sees a shadowy mirror. She approaches her reflection and finds that she can enter it. This part is pretty trippy, but I'll try to explain it best I can. As Sam emerges on the other side of the mirror, she falls to the ground. Her head pops off and multiple snakes crawl out. She struggles with the serpents until she realizes that they are a part of her, and they crawl back into her head, which she puts back onto her neck. She says this has always been a part of her, ever since her first heartbeat. She exits the cave and walks to a nearby stream where she encounters a wild bear. She believes it to be the same one she saw once before, and it's just killed a deer and has blood all over its face. Another bear comes out and the two begin to fight over the food. It's pretty damn brutal. They bite each other's snouts and the brown bear slashes open the other bear's stomach. Its guts come all pouring out and Sam's just watching, smiling, saying yes. The brown bear wins the fight and drags off the deer. Something about this reignites a fire in Sam, and she simply says that she has some work to do. She heads back into Woodbrook after dark and sneaks into her shop to get some supplies and some retribution. She grabs some tape, a blade, and some plastic tarps. Then she decides to double up on the tarps, saying, "This is gonna get messy." And now we move into the final issue, which starts with Nigel looking over some of his photos of his victims. Cherry Gherkin, slit throat, Martin's split arms, and even a mirror selfie of himself holding a gun to Charlie's head. This kid is twisted. He burns them all in the woods to dispose of any evidence. Then he grabs a revolver out of a lockbox he's buried in the dirt. As he strolls back into town, he finds a little girl blowing bubbles and asks if she's here all by herself. Oh God. Luckily, the girl is with her father, who comes around the corner. Nigel heads to the newsstand and chats up Chip. They talk about how they would have never suspected the killer to be Samantha, but then Nigel sees the bunny barista leaving the coffee place. He tails her and takes some photos. Seems like this may be his next victim. He follows her into the grocery store where a panicky woman runs into her and then runs off, barely apologizing. Well, guess who's there to help her up? Nigel. Later, we see him developing the photos of the girl in the dark room, planning his next move. Apparently, he does this at a secret apartment he's been renting. Sam shows up at Lola and Nigel's house wearing her typical serial killer gear while Nigel's out. She tells Lola that it wasn't her who committed the crimes, but Nigel. And surprisingly, Lola says that deep down she knew it was him. She also reveals that she knew Sam was a killer as well. She asks if there's some way for them to work it out, and Sam says she thinks there will be, and that they should talk about it at her place. She begins to lay down some tarp, and Lola asks her why she's wearing goggles. Next, we see Nigel climbing into Sam's window after seeing her car parked in the driveway, suspecting she might come back. Holding his gun, he sees someone reading a book in the living room. He tells her she should have stayed away while she had the chance, but when he looks closer, he realizes this isn't Sam. It's his own mother who's been stabbed to death, and her arm is propped up with the book. From behind, Sam approaches Nigel, injecting something into his neck. He falls to the ground as his body goes limp. Sam says she's injected him with Kirare, which is blocking his neuromuscular transmission so he can't move, but he's still fully aware of what's happening. She says that, as he can probably feel and smell by now, his bowels are releasing. It's embarrassing, but he doesn't need to worry about it much longer. Pretty soon, Sheriff Patterson will be here with his deputies, and she'll explain how she was hiding until she could prove her innocence, how Lola agreed to meet her here when they realized that Nigel was the killer. She reveals she knows about the secret dark room and lockbox. She'll tell the cops that he broke in and stabbed his mother to death for betraying him. She says she's disappointed. Only idiots who don't know what they're doing use guns. She'll tell the sheriff that they wrestled over it until the gun went off accidentally, blowing off Nigel's head. Yeah, it'll be a mess, but she'll clean up whatever's left of him and move on with her life. She says that although her and Nigel's mom go back 40 years, she was just someone Sam knew. She liked her well enough, but that's about it. She doesn't pretend to know what love is. Lola did, though. She knew all about what Nigel was doing and still went on loving him. Sam places the gun in Nigel's hand and aims it at his head, saying, "How could you kill her, Nigel?" Tears stream down Nigel's face as Sam continues, "The only person in the whole world who loved you. How could you do that to her?" Oh well. She pulls the trigger and blood sprays on her face. Later, we see the cops investigating the matter, and it seems this little town's nightmare is over. A news report tells the whole story about how Nigel was the killer and only framed Samantha for his terrible crimes. Over time, Woodbrook has begun to forget, and things have gone mostly back to normal. Little by little, it seems a new hope is in the air. We see Sam sweeping outside her shop when Melody comes walking by with a new man on her arm. Looks like she's finally moving on. Charlie's wife tells Sam she knew it couldn't have been her and gives her a casserole. In turn, Sam gives her Charlie's wedding ring, which fell on the floor of the shop when he was beheaded. Sheriff Patterson talks to Sam next, apologizing profusely for assuming she was the killer, and asks if she would consider endorsing him as sheriff for the upcoming election. She heads inside, and we hear her inner monologue once more, saying, "Woodbrook is a special place. It's my home, and it's good to be back. Now I think it's time for this bear to take it easy. Maybe hibernate for a bit while things calm down." And that's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
This shit was tough.
It's always nice when you pick up
Am I tweaking right now? I feel like I'm tweaking, bro. I feel like since he did all that zooming in, bro, I can already see the screen zooming in when in reality it's not. I'm tweaking out.
Something on a whim and end up really enjoying it. I initially thought this was going to be all novelty, relying on the gimmick of the storybook art style, but instead I got a deep and gripping crime thriller. I think the best part is that I really liked Sam. The fact that she is a murdering psychopath, but you still root for her as the hero is genius. Like I said, initially I thought the art style here was maybe a gimmick, but it's clear that that was a bad assumption on my part because the art here is amazing. It's crazy how it can look so cartoonish and so realistic at the same time. It's a great blend of the two. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
But this shit was a banger, bro. I'm not even gonna cap. I did not expect myself to like this at all. I didn't even expect me to like this at all. I'm being so honest. I just thought I was here for the app. I'm not gonna like I thought I was here just the app, but no, I really enjoy this. Like, you can tell I enjoy it when I don't talk. If I'm talking a lot, that means I'm just so bored. I'm just trying to waste time. But my God, I was so in tune to this. And now I really want to go look at it for myself. I'm not even gonna cap. But, oh my God, this shit was a banger, bro. This shit was a certified banger, certified Who classic. But if you guys enjoyed that video, leave a like. Subscribe, comment, tell me what you liked about this video, tell me what you liked about the shit. So yeah, from me to you, toodles. Check out the links in the description. Bye everybody.